Hey, everybody, hope you're doing good. Wow, week 7. This class is flying by. I hope you're enjoying the content and that you yourself are feeling blessed and thriving. And just know that God has a plan and a purpose for you. All right, it's a pleasure to be your instructor today. We're going to be talking about mentoring and team building. Last week, we went over what um, makes human systems and human interaction, um, the all the organizational inputs of from recruiting people to join your organization to all the way through the process of training and teaching and evaluation and payment and benefits and motivation to possibly firing people. How does diversity, as far as genders, generations, ethnicity, how does that all play into um, our bias? How the organization sees these individuals. And then we got to just skip a rock and clarify boundaries about what we believe about intergender relationships. And so that was a lot of fun to see those interactions. So great job. So this week, we're going to shift our focus to culture. What comes to mind when you think of workplace culture? That's what we're going to jump into today. And here we go. So, stepping back, remember you have the why of why do we exist? What is our mission? Um, and then everything else is how, what, and then who. And the how, what, and who um, makes organizational culture. So, some of you might be like, what on earth is she even talking about? Well, let's just dive in a little more. So, organizational culture is can be recognized by is your organization outcome oriented? Is it aggressive? Would you say that your organization is stable, innovative, detailed? They're team oriented or people oriented? What if you were going to describe the organization that you're connected with? How would you describe them? And most of the time, it is because of the organizational culture. Okay. So I love this quote by John Maxwell that culture eats vision for lunch. Listen, you can have the best vision statement and you can paint it on your walls, you can print it on your stationery, but culture, the organizational culture, how people act, why they act that way, how they respond, all of those things will supersede your stationery and your beautiful wall mural any day, because we are a people who are who live by action, not just words. Okay, and so we can say it all day long, but replicating and culture is contagious because it is action based. Okay, so put it this way: culture is the way we do things and how we work together. So, have you been a part of an organization that says, I just want to encourage you that the way we do things around here is da 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 da, or we interact with each other this way? Sometimes they're hidden expectations, and sometimes it's very clear, especially if you have a culture of growth in your organization. They're going to be right up front of what they expect and how they want things to be accomplished. And so culture is what is driving these behaviors when it comes to people and the organization. And so here are some like detailed ways of how organization values and culture comes to be. Power structures. Who really has the power? Sometimes it's hierarchical, and you have like a top down, they're the CEO and they make the decisions, but really it's the secretary who sets the schedule and she has the power. And so sometimes, and you can just tell I just used bias right there that it would be a she secretary. But anyway, going back. So power structures is who has the control. What is the control systems? What are the things that are symbolic of our organization? We do such and such event every year, and we're not changing that because that is who we are. What are the stories that get told, the rituals, the routines, the organizational structures that are in place? These are the things that are contagious and are repeated throughout the organization. I don't know about you, but it seems like, we might have heard this before. Oh, yeah. Remember the penguins and the iceberg? Remember their stories? Remember their symbols, their rituals, and their routines that we can't change because this is what we've always done. Because values and culture are ingrained in who we are as people. And so, as team leaders, as team members, it's important to know, what do we value? Why do we value that? What are we replicating among each other? What are the things that we hold as sacred, and why? And being curious about that. Because I'm going to tell you something, a dysfunctional culture will drive people away. And so it's important to just know, what is the culture that I'm wanting to set, and why? Why do we, you can spend all kinds of time on what do we want to accomplish, but it's not the vision of it, but how does it transpire and take place? That is where your time and energy needs to go. Because remember what John Maxwell said, that culture eats vision for lunch. And so you can have a great vision, but if your culture is counter to what you're wanting to accomplish, you might be on an iceberg that's melting. Okay. I don't know if you've heard of Pete Scazzaro. He does a lot of work about emotionally healthy leaders. In his book, Emotionally Healthy Leader, he has a whole chapter on culture and teams. So if you have taken that, used his book in another class, you might want to pull it off the shelf because there's some great nuggets on culture and team building. And but the chapter there, it talks about emotionally healthy culture and teams have several elements that are foundational. And I love that Scazzero's work integrates who we are as people and what we do. So, number one, it says work and personal formation are inseparable. So, what that means is what we do is connected with who we are. And we cannot say one thing and do another and be an integrated person. An emotionally healthy culture recognizes when there's issues, and in an analogy kind of world, the elephant in the room. Have you ever heard that? We're going to address the elephant in the room. Well, there's even a football commercial that even talks about the elephant's really in the room. But anyway, Elephants in the room, that means that there's problems. And sometimes people like act like there's not issues. And that usually means that there's unhealthy culture going on. When people minimize or ignore um, glaring cultural issues. And so elephants in the room are acknowledged and confronted. That means when there's issues, emotionally healthy culture and teams deal with them. They don't minimize them, and they do the hard work of being curious and getting to the root of the issues. So time and energy are invested. This goes all the way back to when we started talking about teams. That remember team development. Lencioni said that um, most organizations don't spend enough time or energy um, on teams. And Scazzaro backs it up, and he says that emotionally healthy culture in teams is only built through time and intentionality. Where are you investing energy? And the quality of people's marriages and singleness is foundational. And you might say, listen, why are we bringing people's lives into our team? You know, we want to keep personal lives separate from work life. Well, I'd like to see how that works out for you, because people are complicated, and they bring their family, they bring their history, they bring their genogram, they bring all of who they are to their workplace cultures. And if people are having struggles in their marriage and in their single life, it will affect your culture at work. It will affect your team, because people, have issues that, it just bleeds over. And so spending time helping your team get healthy emotionally, spiritually, and ongoing, it's important, because it will affect the whole culture and team. When people are depressed, when they are struggling, when they're hurting, it's going to affect the whole organizational culture. And so being aware of that is huge. If you want to know more about that, check out Pete's book, and there's a whole chapter devoted on teams and culture. So going back, Lencioni, he has this quote here, and if you're not careful, you could just fly right by it. But he says the most well-intentioned, well-designed departmental communication program will not tear down silos unless the people who created those silos want them torn down. So what does he mean by that? So we're going to talk about silos in our discussion post today, and or this week we're going to talk about silos. And silos are where people segment themselves from other parts of the organization. Okay, and sometimes they're healthy silos, but they're just doing their own thing, and they're not really aware of how their actions are affecting other departments or other parts of the organization. And sometimes silos are toxic because they are divisive, and um, people want their own way, and it's self-centered kind of things. Well, so here's the thing: you can have a mix of all of the above if people in your organization are not working together. And so what Lencioni is saying is, even if you have a intentional, well-designed communication plan, if there's silos that are existing, they will not come down unless those people that have created the silos or the barriers want them torn down. And you're going to have to decide that as an organization. Um, you know, with all the work that is done about organizations and how they work together, um, people can talk about change, but until everybody is on the same page, and we've addressed the elephants in the room, so to speak, and want um, those things that divide us removed, it won't happen. And so it's an interesting component. So you're going to talk a little bit about um, silos and disagreements in the discussion post. So let's just go there. So um, on your discussion post, there's going to be a scenario that's given, and you are going to put yourself in the seat of the senior leader over this group of people, and how will you implement change, culture recognition, what is needed to address the silos and the conflict on your team. Okay, use our resources, our class books, different things like that. And yeah, I'm interested to see how are you going to fix this team, because it's kind of broke, and we need your help. And so, what do you suggest? Your portfolio assignment. This is where develop the culture that you want to be a part of. And so this is going to be kind of a living document about values that you feel is important for an organization. And so you're going to set the cultural tone of your organization, who we are and who we are not. You know, strong organizations like Southwest Airline, one of their values is to have fun. I don't know if you've ever ridden on a Southwest flight, but you know, they're flight attendants who do the fun welcome messages. You know, put on your seatbelt. You know, whenever if we go through turbulence, we might lose cabin pressure, and they talk about the air mask and how to do that. If you've never seen a Southwest Airline stewardess or steward give those announcements, Google it. Watch one on YouTube, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But all of their antics, their funness comes from the value, the culture that their CEO wanted to embed in their organization. And so that's what we want. You are in the deciding chair of what kind of culture do you want, who we are and who we are not. I hope you have a fun time this week diving into these 2 assignments. And week 8 is on the way. Last week coming up soon. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye.